In this game, winners win, and I only back winners. Trainer Kenny McPeak is a proven winner, and his horses are in my portfolio. And now they can be in yours too. McPeak's champion horses and Derby hopefuls are now featured on Morning Line. With Morning Line, I don't just watch the race. I own the moment. I invest in champions. This is my edge. Buy, sell, trade, anytime. Morning Line, own the game.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I'm Gino Buccola alongside David Aragona with producer Lucia helping us out, and we'll head on out to Gulfstream Park. We're going to preview race 5 on Saturday over at Gulfstream Park. That one's the Kitten's Joy, $175,000 up for grabs. Before we dive into that, I want to let you know about the sponsor of this preview, morningline.io. SEC regulated marketplace where approved participants can trade licensed interest in racing's biggest stars. Be part of championship bloodlines. Just visit morningline.io. Buy, sell, trade, own the game. Let's take a look at the field for the Kitten's Joy. Mile and a 16th on the turf course for 3-year-olds. David, we have Alpyland, who's very sharp right now. Kind of interesting. You rarely see a horse who's won 3 in a row than a first-time gelding. Or you don't really see major equipment changes a lot of times when horses are in such sharp form and winning races in a row. But 3 wins in a row, first-time gelding here, a horse who showed the ability to stretch out from turf sprints to go longer on the turf, won the Danya Beach last out.
Yeah, I'd love to see a quote from Mark Cassidy about why they gelded this horse since the last race, if they indeed did. I know some jurisdictions aren't great about reporting when horses were actually gelded, so always take that maybe with a slight grain of salt. But regardless of any of that, Gino, this horse is coming into the race in great form, although fast victory against Stakes Company last time out. So he's the now horse, but the horse from last year with the class lines is the number 6 Turf Star coming out of the Breeders' Cup. So I'll be interested to see which one goes favorite between those two.
Let's see what Timeform US thinks about this race, how it's going to unfold at the pace projector. They have Redlands Rebels from the outside showing speed. It doesn't surprise me at all. This horse did show the way in the only race going long on the turf. Anyone else in here you think going to push this horse?
I mean, the number 5,000 Sticks is a horse that has shown a front-running style in his last couple of starts, not setting the fastest paces. So that's why he's shown a little bit further back on the pace projector than you might expect. But I would imagine the game plan with 1,000 Sticks is going to be to try to go out and set a pace. And I'll be interested to see how aggressive they are with the number 8 Redland Rebels, because he is coming off a significant layoff. So maybe they ride him a little bit less aggressively than you might expect. And I could see this pace projector kind of flip-flopping among the top 4 runners shown.
A horse who could be sitting a nice trip on the inside as we meet the field here is Kozolite. Kozolite beat Open Company on the turf back in August. Following that race, beat Florida Breds, going 7 furlongs on the dirt, and then actually faced a pretty tough group when losing to Strategic Wrist. In Strategic Wrist, we pointed out earlier on in a previous preview that this horse came back and win the Smarty Jones over at Oaklawn Park. So we'll get back to the grass for Kozolite, who is a winner on the turf and has shown the ability to sit off a little bit, but down on the inside, David, what kind of trip are you expecting for this one?
He should get a decent stalking trip, probably in the pocket, especially if the 5 and 8 go out there. He's going to get a good trip in behind them, and Irad Ortiz certainly loves to work out that kind of trip where he's sitting in the pocket and could tip out at the top of the stretch. I just wonder if this is really a turf horse, Gino. I know he won impressively in the lone turf race last year against Maiden Company, but you look back at the field that finished behind him, and they have done very little since then. Very little improvement and very little winning. So I do wonder if he's really going to stack up against these, switching back to the turf. But he probably will be a decent price in this race for a horse that Irad is riding.
Yeah, ultimately, I agree with you. I don't know if going long on the turf is what I think about for this guy, where he'll absolutely be at his best, especially in races like this where he may be sitting behind. If he was like a loose speed type horse and kind of run him off the feet, we'll see what kind of trip he gets from down inside. Alpyland has just been so sharp recently, 3 in a row, all on turf, 2 going a mile, including the Danya Beach, which was a nice stepping stone for the Kitten's Joy. It's just tough to knock what this horse has been doing recently, David. It's all been very solid.
Yeah, I mean, his last race, pretty straightforward. I mean, he never saw the inside, 2 to 3 wide, pushing the pace all the way. Was able to make this move, never seeing cover, and went on pretty well. At 84 buyer, I mean, it certainly checks out. It was an honest pace. He was not far off it, and he just kept finding on the front end. So he was clearly best last time. And even when you go to the race two back, where he got a lower buyer speed figure, only a 72, but he was wide around both turns, 4 wide early, 3 to 4 wide around the second turn. So covering all that ground at a place like Gulfstream Park and still pulling off the victory is impressive. And he kind of has the feel to me, Gino, of a horse like Nitrogen at this time last year when she wasn't a special 2-year-old, but she just kept improving over the winter at Gulfstream Park. And Mark Cassie's actually given some quotes about this horse, saying he might pull a Nitrogen with her and go back to, with him, I should say, and go back to dirt at some point because he trains well on the dirt. So I'll be interested to see what happens in the future. But in this race, he does seem like one of the horses to beat.
Yeah, we have the Kitten's Joy for the boys, and then we've got the Sweetest Chant for the fillies. And in both those races, you have this really sharp horse. It's Sister Troyenne there, and here it's Alpyland, who's the measuring stick. And these horses are going to have to jump up and prove that they can beat a horse who's just in excellent form right now. Chalky White is the next one up. Tries turf again. He did actually break the maiden at Kentucky Downs in a maiden $75,000 claimer, but was well behind Gloria's Boy when they raced on the synthetic in the pulpit a few starts back. I feel like I need to see him with a competitive race at this level to feel like he stacks up with a group like this.
Yeah, I mean, he was wide last time, but he still was just never really in the hunt. And there's just nothing in his turf or synthetic race that make me feel like he's good enough to be competitive with a field like this.
Glorious Boy was in the Danya Beach behind Alpyland after being a dead heat winner in the pulpit on the synthetic 2 starts back. I thought Glorious Boy coming off of it, about 8 lengths out of it, still 6 off at about the top of the lane, closed well late, wasn't that far out of second, but was no match for Alpyland that day. I mean, if this horse runs second, beating a couple lengths, it looks better on paper than finishing 5th, but still will need to do quite a bit to turn the tables on Alpyland or maybe get more of a setup up front if they go really fast early on. This could be one of the horses that maybe takes advantage of that type of trip.
Yeah, I mean, I just respect the improvement for this horse, the consistent, steady improvement. He's getting better race after race. You can see it in his speed figures. And I thought he even ran better than it looks to you back when the leader of that race, who ended up finishing in a dead heat with him, was just kind of drifting into his path and fouling him a couple of times. So a justifiable but rare DQ out of a dead heat for this horse's rival. And last time out, like you said, I mean, he was closing belatedly, but I did like the way that he was finishing strongly across the wire. And if any pace develops in this race, he's going to be the one that's picking up pieces late.
Next one up is 1,000 Sticks, who has won 2 in a row back to back. Both of those races pretty close to being on the lead, set off a little bit in December at Gulfstream Park. The Damn Lottie was a multiple graded stakes place runner on the turf and could go as far as 1 3/8 and 1.5 miles. In that January 11th race against First Level Allowance Company, including a rival in here, Naughty Nicks, Thousands and Sticks just kind of held that inside position and was able to shake clear at the top of the lane, put away the others right here, and then kind of kicks on nicely.
Yeah, it's funny. You see that pedigree, a turf marathon, and you expect to see this big, rangy horse. Then you watch his replays, and he's this tiny little thing that kind of spurts away from his competition. But look, I mean, he's been very effective since getting on the turf at Gulfstream Park. Both times, though, with very favorable trips, just attending moderate paces or setting moderate paces and drawing off in the lane. And I will note, Gino, I mean, he won his last couple of starts under very light handling from jockey Mario Gutierrez. And you will note the last time that a jockey really had to set him down was that loss at Churchill Downs 3 back when he was put to the whip and was drifting badly from the whip in deep stretch. So kind of ironic for a horse named 1,000 Sticks. He might not like the stick too much. And in a tougher field like this, you do wonder if that might become an issue.
You pointed out Mario. I wanted to give a little credit, kind of quietly riding pretty well under the radar, like picking up like mounts, winning between 15 to 20% or so. So just getting the job done. He's aboard 1,000 Sticks here. We moved to Turf Star, who raced 4 times as a 2-year-old David. And honestly, I don't have a problem with any of the 4 races that this horse ran. The career debut was a good second, comes back and he wins in his next start. Then in the Bourbon, he sits just behind Final Score. He ran really well in the Bourbon at 12-1. He just couldn't get to a horse who was really sharp, who was lone speed that day, Final Score, and he was winning his 3rd race in a row. And then in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, I mean, the Turf Star was 48-1. He was a little overmatched on class by the top contenders in there, but he was in contention. He was only a few lengths out of it, and he didn't have a smooth journey. I'm not saying he had the most overwhelming trouble, but it's kind of in between horses for a while, and then he got a chance to run late. And yeah, he couldn't close with some of the best ones in there, but you go through that field. Stark Contrast comes back to win the Eddie Logan next time out. We have Street Beast, who comes back to win the Leonidas next time out. That's already come back to be a strong race so far. I just think he's a nice horse. I think it's a good spot for him, making his first start as a 3-year-old. So to me, he fits really well in here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it shouldn't come as any surprise that the Breeders' Cup was a strong race, but you do want to get that confirmation, especially with the juvenile races, because sometimes, they don't turn out to, those horses don't exactly pan out as 3-year-olds, and so far they are out of that juvenile turf. So the fact that he was 6th, I think it was actually a solid effort, and I hear what you're saying, Gino. I mean, I don't think he was going to finish in a much better position than he ultimately did, even with a clear run, but he was kind of never able to find a clear path in the stretch and kept running on regardless, and he just feels like that kind of horse where he's willing to run through traffic. You saw it in the Bourbon 2 back, where he got a good trip, all things considered, but he kept his momentum even when altering course in the late stages. He got a wide trip when he broke his maiden at Kentucky Down. So this is a pretty likable horse. The only knock against him really is that he went off at big prices in both prior stakes races, and now he's probably going to be one of the favorites.
Yeah, we'll see how bettable he will be in here. Naughty Nix has been behind a couple of the common rivals in this race, Thousand Sticks and Alpyland. I do think, you can look at some of those races, especially if you're a trip player, and build cases for the January 11th race. This horse had no room, lost position, came on again, just too late chasing the lone speed winner, Thousand Sticks in that January 11th race. I think you go back to January 1st, was 3 deep, was in a kind of a wide spot, but didn't, have a whole lot of room going into the stretch. So, I mean, I think you can kind of find some things. I'm just not sure if the race is going to set up all that well for this horse. Feels like he's one that needs a little more speed to run at.
Yeah, I saw that comment line last time when he finished second behind Thousand Sticks, and when I pulled up the replay, I was kind of wanting to like his effort more than I ultimately did. I thought even the 3rd place finisher was kind of out finishing him in the final 8th of a mile, so it looks better on paper than it really did on replay. And when I go back to look up those 2 races where he faced off against Alpyland, I thought Alpyland just ran better than him both times. So I had trouble making the case for him being a win candidate here.
That's the same issues that I had, right? I think I wanted to like him, and I was trying to make a case, but I just didn't think he had as many excuses, or you could upgrade him over Alpyland or the winner of Thousands and Sticks. We round things out with Redlands Rebel. That August 3rd race, it was a good start. He got the lead. He was doing it easily. He cleared by a length. He crushed that race, but he has not raced since August. He's now going to step up with a wide draw and possibly other speed to deal with. So this will certainly be a much tougher task for him, trying to win his 2nd turf start.
Yeah, this horse was really impressive when you watch this victory back, especially considering that it was August of his 2-year-old season that he got a 71 buyer. I know that doesn't look like anything special against this field, but back then, 6 months ago, that was a really strong number for the middle of your 2-year-old season. And I mean, he absolutely smashed that group. The problem is, like with some other horses that ran on the turf in the summer at Gulfstream last year, I think we talked about this with Kozolite. You look up that field in retrospect, and I think the 8 horses who finished 2nd through 9th directly behind him are all still maidens. So it has not been a productive race, to say the least, actually quite the opposite. Now, he did win by nearly 7 lengths, so maybe you're not supposed to worry too much about what's behind him. I do worry about the layoff, though, because it's a light work tab. You can see there are only 4 workouts showing. You look up some stats for trainer Patrick Biancone, just 1 for 27 off 4 to 8 month layoffs over the last 5 years. So I'm a little worried about that. He was wearing blinkers last time, so I don't think we have to worry about an equipment change with this horse. But I do wonder if he's going to be able to do his best work off the layoff here.
As we round out the preview here, we move to selections. I had a tough time getting away from the top couple in here, David. I really do respect Turf Star and Alpyland, even Thousand and Sticks. I thought they all ran pretty well. You're going to lean with Alpyland.
I was just really impressed by his last couple of replays where I thought he was even better than the margins of victory would suggest. And I believe he's supposed to get a better trip here because he's drawn outside post positions in all of his recent races. And now he's finally drawn inside, and he's supposed to get the right kind of, inside to stalking trip under John Velasquez. I just think he's the horse to beat in here. So I'll put him on top.
We'll find out more, too, about that gelding situation and when that exactly happened. But if he's been winning these races and there's still more for him and he's green and there's like another step forward to go, then that's actually something that could be scary for the rest of this field trying to beat Alpyland. I'll go to Turf Star, give this one a shot, making the first start as a 3-year-old. So for me, 6'2", 6'5", 2'7" for David, 2'6", 4'5". However you play them, we wish you the best of luck.